and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, I'm Tracy Leicester of the Saving Kiwi Foundation, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, my name is Tanner Falcao. I'm a young coaster enthusiast, and you are listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Christopher Werner from Christopher Werner Designs, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hey, I'm Robert Coker of Super 78 and the Season Pass podcast, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Coaster Challenge podcast is here. It's time to face your fears. Get that theme park therapy and lend us both your Coaster Challenge podcast is here. Your fear can disappear. We know that theme park therapy can dry up all your tears. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? We accept because you know we're not average.
You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast. A journey where people become fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses and keep your hands and arms inside the podcast. It's time to accept the Coaster Challenge with your host, Kim Dykes.
Hello to our audience. This is Kim with the Coaster Challenge podcast, and I am thrilled for the opportunity to hear the story of my VIP guest. Today, I get the pleasure of talking to Ray Gonzales, a family man and coaster enthusiast who is the marketing leader of loyalty and consumer activation at SeaWorld San Antonio. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me, and welcome to the podcast, Ray.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I am so excited to finally get to sit down with you and hear your story. We had the opportunity to talk and get to know each other a bit when I visited SeaWorld San Antonio back in June. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with me that day. With that being said, we had just enough time to scratch the surface. So will you please share a few more things about yourself with me and help our listeners get to know you better?
Sure. So again, Ray Gonzales. I work at SeaWorld San Antonio. I've been there for over 20 years. I started off in the education department. I was actually a tour guide before I actually worked my way over to marketing. And I've just worn a bunch of different hats in the marketing department. And right now I am over loyalty, but I kind of have my hands in everything, especially when it comes to coaster enthusiasts and coaster groups like ACE and brand new rides and attractions over at SeaWorld. Happily married, have two daughters. One is about to graduate high school, which is just being a super exciting time for the family. And we're also park people. We love going to theme parks, riding rides. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing all of that with me. I have a son that is probably just about a year behind your daughter. He's a junior in high school, studying to get his driver's permit.
Yep.
We're looking at graduation. That seems like it'll come in the blink of an eye.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Like this year is just going by for us. And before you know it, it'll be May and she'll be a high school graduate. So it's exciting, but it's also kind of scary, you know?
Tell me about it. I feel like right now is kind of calm before the storm.
Exactly.
And, so interesting. I did not realize that you had worn that many hats.
Oh yeah, I do a lot. I always say I'm the catch-all, the marketing catch-all. I always say that I have a big problem with opening my mouth and coming up with ideas and stuff. So I get voluntold a lot because I come up with things and don't know when to keep my mouth shut.
Well, in my particular case, I really appreciated that because I was really, just expecting a regular, trip to Texas. I did not realize I was going to be meeting you along the way. And I just really appreciate the fact that you took the time. You sought me out, took the time to come and talk with me and meet me. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course. No, I love talking to coaster peeps, of course, people that have a passion for that. I've always said, people that go to theme parks are important, so I love taking time when I have the opportunity to come out and talk with people that I know, industry folks, it's worth the time to build those relationships. So I'm glad that we had a chance to catch up and meet your family for a bit.
Well, and really left a mark in my mind. I think, when I do return to Texas, I'm not sure when that'll be, probably in a couple, 2 or 3 years. SeaWorld San Antonio is going to be someplace that I am very excited to return to.
Definitely. We'd love to have you again.
I had a fantastic experience there. And the fact that you came to me, reached out, built a relationship with me. So thank you for that.
Of course. Yeah. We'd love to see you again.
All right. Well, the way our interview is going to work, the first part of the interview is kind of what we refer to as the roller coaster time machine. We're going to go back on your experience with coasters. And then the second half of the interview focuses more on you as an individual. Some of it is coaster related. Some of it may be non-coaster related, depending on where the conversation takes us.
Okay.
So let's get started. So as we enter the roller coaster time traveler machine, first thing I would like to know is, what was your very first coaster?
So here in San Antonio, I'm born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. There used to be a very small amusement park on the south side of San Antonio that had, I'll call it a wild mouse roller coaster. I don't really think that it was a true wild mouse, but just your average kind of like carnival roller coaster. That was my first roller coaster that I had ever been on before. I can't even tell you what the name of that ride was, because I'm talking like over 20 years ago, many years ago. But yeah, that was my first roller coaster.
It's interesting that you have a memory of that, because, the first one I remember riding was the Beastie at Kings Island. But I know, we went to fairs and carnivals and stuff before then. There's a distinct possibility that I could have ridden something somewhere at some point in time, and it just skipped my mind. But it's funny now, because those coasters like that a lot of people that aren't enthusiasts, that don't really, count credits or whatever, look at as non-substantial. Those are coasters I seek out.
Yeah, for sure, because they're one of a kind, right?
They are, and
they don't make them like those anymore. So I mean, I totally get it, especially when you're looking for credits, right? It's to find those specific special rides, right?
Yeah, and I'm one of those people that'll go on a mission when I'm, there in a state, to get as many credits in that state as I can. And it doesn't matter what the coaster is, and just to have the authentic experience of riding some of those. I've actually had people that I work with that follow my social media come to me, and they're like, I didn't know you could get roller coaster credits at the state fair.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. Just
That's
because
right.
it's not the biggest, tallest, and fastest doesn't mean that it's not a coaster.
Can't get a credit. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's been quite a source of entertaining conversation at my work as well. So looking back on the coasters that you've ridden, what would you say is the one coaster that scared you the most?
Okay, don't laugh at me, but for me, it was Space Mountain at Disneyland. And let me tell you why. So I used to have, when I was much younger, I used to have my best friend at the time. He was, really big into just any sort of rides, flat rides whatsoever. We go to carnivals, like he was the one getting on everything. I was the one that was more kind of terrified of things. So to me, he was kind of the daredevil. And he would always tell me about how he cried on Space Mountain. And his mom and dad would tell me too, like he was absolutely terrified for it. So in my mind, I just had this idea of this terrifying roller coaster. So when I happened to find myself in California to go to Disneyland, knowing that Space Mountain was there, it kind of freaked me out a bit. And I was terrified to get on it. So that would be my number one roller coaster that kind of scared me.
It's very interesting, because my mind works, I think, a lot the way that yours did. I didn't become an enthusiast till 2019. And I really started riding roller coasters somewhat, a little bit, when I was 18. Through college, I rode a few.
Yeah.
But the main thing that kept me off coasters was what my family told me growing up.
Right.
We
Yeah.
would-
That,
we-
I mean, has an effect on you for sure.
It does. I mean, we would go to Kings Island once a year. We lived about an hour and a half from Kings Island in a little, very small town of like less than 10,000 people called Maysville, Kentucky. That's where I grew up. And I just kept getting told how scary everything was.
Yep.
And they would take me. I had two older sisters. I was the youngest of three. So I pretty much got stuck with wherever they took me around the park. I wasn't allowed to go off alone because I was 7 years younger than the middle sister. They would take me on all these rides that would spin me really fast in tight circles. They made me throw up once. I mean, I hate tight circles like that to this
Sure,
day.
yep.
And that was what I was allowed to do. And it was actually, I didn't really ride much. I think I might have ridden, I mean, I rode the Beastie, and I think I may have ridden the Racer, but it wasn't until I was 18 on my senior night at high school. I didn't want to be a complete outcast and be the only one, you know,
Right.
not doing what everybody else was doing. They all wanted to ride Vortex. I was absolutely scared to death. I don't think I opened my eyes the
Yep.
whole ride. But that was back in Vortex's heyday when it was still running really well. You know, there wasn't any headbanging or any of that had developed
Right,
in
right.
its later years. And after I got off of that, I was like, that's actually fun.
Yep.
I might want to try to open my eyes and see
Yep.
what I'm missing. So,
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt after finally riding Space Mountain and realizing just how fun it was. You know, and I was like, I can't believe I was terrified of this ride. You know, for so many years, this legend just turned out not to be that. It was just a fun, you know, little ride, really. You know, and so Space Mountain always has a special place for me because, you know, it was kind of, I got over that fear getting on that ride.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was just kind of baby steps after that. I remember, and I don't even remember when I went to college, I wasn't even at Kings Island every year. It was very sporadic, but I do remember riding Son of Beast,
Mm-hmm.
and that was back before it got bad, back
Yeah.
when it was newer,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed that too.
Yeah,
But I
that's
did-
awesome.
Yeah,
You're
and
fortunate to have been able to ride that ride for sure.
I rode it with a loop. I had my son in 2005, and that was shortly after that they took the loop out. I didn't get to ride it without the loop, and the stories I've read said that that's when it got
Yeah.
brutally rough. I'm
Yep.
actually glad I didn't get to experience that. But and then after I had him, I mean, my son he has autism. He was filled with, you know, just anxiety and fear. It controlled his life for many, many years. I wasn't back on a coaster until 2018
Wow.
when he finally looked at Diamondback and wanted to try it.
That's
Mm.
awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we were both scared to death, but it's just been, you know, it's been, first it was baby steps, then giant leaps after that.
There you go. Yep. That's how it works.
After we figured out that was something we wanted to continue doing. So back on that very first ride on Space Mountain, how were you feeling when you approached the station?
I was, you know, I kind of felt like I had a little bit of anxiety, you know,
Mhm.
but I was, you know, kind of committed to I was going to get on that ride. And so like the whole time, you know, walking through the queue line and getting into the station, you know, was kind of stressful for me. But then I started noticing like just how everyone was just coming back with smiles. So I was just kind of like, well, maybe I'm missing something here, you know. And sure enough, you know, getting into the train and sitting down and then putting that lap bar on you. And then, you know, going up, you know, the lift hill and just kind of seeing the bright lights and, you know, the kind of flickering, trying to get you to feel that you're actually in space. You know, as soon as you actually got into the ride building, that's when it was just like, oh, wow, this is like really cool, you know, that it was just a great experience. And so, you know, it kind of blew my mind because I was just kind of like, just this fear that I had of the ride, and for that to be unjustified, and to know that was just a fun ride at Disney. It was just, it was just great after that, and really, after that ride, I was just, still where I am today is I'll get on any roller coaster, doesn't matter what it is.
Okay. I'm going to share a story with you as well, thinking about being scared. And I've got several stories that I've shared about different rides that I've actually been petrified of the first time I rode them, including coasters. But the one I want to share tonight doesn't involve a coaster. It's Drop Tower at Kings Island. I got this harebrained idea back when I was about 22 or 23. I'd never been on anything bigger than Vortex, and I'd only ridden that a couple of times. Somebody said, hey, let's get on Drop Tower. So I'm like, sure, why not? I felt like calm. I didn't really feel that nervous. I got off of that ride walking sideways. I had to go sit down for 30 minutes. It was horrendous. So, yeah. After that, I swore off Drop Towers for probably close to 20 years. After we, became enthusiasts, I had ridden, some of the world's most elite coasters. Fury 325, Top Thrill Dragster, Still Vengeance. I mean, the list just had gone on and on and on. And as of 2021, I still had not gotten back on Drop Tower. So it was actually last spring. I just looked at my son because he had done Drop Tower a couple times, but each time he'd done it, it scared him to death. And we had gone to these meetups where he got very involved in a group called Coaster Kids. I don't know if you're familiar with
yes.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Logan Joyner, Jeff Joyner. Jay went to several of the meetups, and that's kind of what brought us into the enthusiast community, with some of the people that we met through Coaster Kids initially. I remember when we went to those meetups, they would always talk about dropping zombie style, when you put your hands out and your feet out. And I don't know, we were just at Kings Island one day. It was spring of 2021. And Jay and I looked at each other, and it's like, this is it. Today's the day. We are declaring revenge on Drop Tower. Let's do this. And I just kept telling myself, there's absolutely no reason. You've gone 120 miles an hour up 420 feet in the air, without holding on. This is in your head. You can do this. And that was it. We went up there. I felt like I was going to die, but I let go. Did it. Got the hands out and feet out. And after that drop, it was great. Yeah. And there's been no more fear of Drop Towers after that.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah, we did Falcon's Fury back in the spring. It was fantastic. And we got to do Zumanjaro.
Very cool.
At
Awesome.
Six Flags Great Adventure. It was an incredible. We actually got one of the rare dueling rides on Zumanjaro with King Dakar. I was on the right edge, and I saw King Dakar race down this track.
That's really cool. Me. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I just literally tried to hold that in my mind. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to be back at this park. I don't know if this is ever going to happen again. But it was one of the most incredible experiences of my entire life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was. So when you got off of Space Mountain for the first time, how did you feel when you got off the ride?
I just loved it. I thought it was great. Ready to go back in line and get on it. There were some other rides that we wanted to do, being Disney and how packed it was. It was like, let's try to go hit some other rides, hit basically all the major rides there at Disneyland. And then came back and rode Space Mountain a couple of times. I mean, I just thought it was a great ride. You know what I mean? So getting off of it was just excitement and ready to go do some more rides.
There's a couple of rides that I responded to differently than others. Top Thrill Dragster and Fury. Both of them, even though after, I came the initial anxiety in anticipation of the rides, I still had anxiety. I was determined to overcome with both of those rides. Fury, I rode it for the first time in 2019. I could not bring myself to let go on the drop. I didn't one time, and I chickened out and wouldn't ride it at night.
Wow.
And goodness, we went back. It wasn't until 2021. We went back and the park was dead that day. It was supposed to storm and it didn't. And nobody came to the park. We did the whole park and we got 25 rides on Fury that day. And awesome. I was able to do, hands up, feet out, but the dark shadow was because it was post-COVID. The park closed at 7. Yeah. There was still no night rides.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even planning on going back there this year, but then plans change on a whim. I'm off during the summer. So that's when I do all my traveling and thrill seeking and running around. And we wound up back down in Carowinds. And this time the park was open until 10.
There you go.
So yeah, we had 35 rides that day.
That's amazing.
I love Fury. It's my number 5. But I'm currently at 353. I'm getting
That's amazing.
Got a couple more credits coming next week, but that's going to be it for 2022 after that. But the night rides were incredible. And the same with Top Thrill Dragster. I mean, I felt so accomplished when I got off of it the first time. But daggone it, I saw these people putting their hands up on the launch. And my hands were shaking so bad. I felt like I don't know if my hands were going to shake off of my arms. And like, I've got to do this one way or another. I'm not leaving until I do it. And we rode, that was back in 2019. No, that was in 2020. The first time we went, it was in August of 2020. It took 5 rides in a row, but I did finally get my hands up on the launch.
That's awesome.
And then I did it again, to make sure I could still do it. And then I was really grateful. We went back last year because I didn't know what the future held for Top Thrill Dragster at that point in time. On our last night at Cedar Point last year, because I only typically go once a year. It's about 6 hours for me. We usually go for 2.5 to 3 days when we go. But I wanted to finish the night at Still Vengeance because that's my number 1 in the park. And kids were just insistent that we go to Top Thrill Dragster, which I'm very glad now, looking back that we did.
Yeah, for sure.
We got 6 night rides on that. The line was non-existent that night.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome.
And was able to, just push through that. And then when we got on King to Caw this year, it was so strange. I thought I would be scared. I thought I would be nervous a little bit, and just all the anxiety was gone, just pure fun.
Yeah, you were just ready to go. Yeah.
I was just ready to go and pure fun. And I'm really glad that I'm at that point now where I can do that and fear's not holding me back from
that's awesome. That's fantastic.
For living life to the fullest. It's such good stress relief too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You can let go of that. You can handle anything all day, every day. So after you got off of Space Mountain for the first time, did it impact your life in any way?
I don't think so. If anything, it just made me feel like I could just ride any roller coaster I wanted to. So maybe to a point of that, when we go to theme parks, if there's a coaster there, we're going to get on it. The only time that we will not get on roller coasters is if we're just there, like if we're going for like a food festival and really that's all we're going to hit or whatever. We'll do that. There's many times where, we've been to Orlando, I don't know how many times, but, we know those parks like the back of our hands. And so when we go, we're usually going for like some sort of event, like, Halloween Horror Nights or something, for example. And when we go for that stuff, it's literally just for the event. If we have time and, the lines aren't crazy, we'll go and get on a ride or whatever. But usually that's not the focus of it. But yeah, if it's possibly a new credit or a ride that we've never been to, then for sure we'll make the effort to get on it.
Okay. And when I visit new parks, that's why typically, unless it's a smaller park, such as SeaWorld that I know I can do reasonably within a day, I typically allow 2 days, two full days, sometimes 2.5, depending on the size of the park, so I can fully experience everything.
Yeah,
sure. And I do love coasters. I love coaster credits, but I like to experience the park as well, to see whether or not, how soon I want to return. And, mentioning Halloween Horror Nights, that I did get to go to Orlando. I've been to Orlando twice now. I got to go to Orlando last October, but it was one of those things. It was really an unplanned trip. It was actually a meetup for this podcast, but that was the first time I really heard about Halloween Horror Nights and that sort of thing. And that's not an event I've gotten to attend yet, but it is one that I'm very eager to attend in the future.
Yeah, you got to do HHN. It's worth it. It's worth going. You got to give yourself some time to really enjoy the whole thing. But it's probably my family's favorite event, or at least my wife and I's family favorite event.
Our executive producer Andrew lives there in Orlando, and he's at Halloween Horror Nights throughout throughout the haunt season. And I keep seeing these pictures and videos and different things, and I can't wait to experience that event for myself sometime. So looking back on all of your coaster riding experiences, what has been your craziest moment on a coaster or in a theme park?
I was proud to be a part of the building of Texas Stingray at SeaWorld in 2019. And we had done such a great job of being ahead of our construction schedule. So when we were commissioning the ride, surprisingly, it was extremely cold here in Texas. And we were just above the cold point that we could actually operate the ride. And so we had just gotten the roller coaster turned over to us from GCI. So I went up to watch some of my colleagues in our operations department get on for the first time. And when I got there, they had me get on as well. And, going through that ride, riding it for the first time, which was, fantastic ride, but it was so cold that, we were just frozen when we came back into the train station. And so that moment always sticks in my head. And I kind of felt like that scene from Dumb and Dumber when they're riding the little motorcycles and they just have all this frozen snot, That's kind of how I felt when I got off the roller coaster. But that is probably my most memorable moment of being on a roller coaster ever.
Now, I'm curious, what is the coldest temperature you all can run that at?
I don't even remember off the top of my head, but I think it's, I want to say it's 42, I think. Okay. Anything lower than that, we can't run it.
Because I know they run Mystic Timbers. That's actually one of the only 2 coasters open at Kings Island during Winterfest. And I'm crazy enough. I've not done this yet. We were going to do this last year, but then the person that coordinated it got sick. This year, we're going to try to do a polar plunge on Mystic Timbers, where we ride in shorts and a t-shirt.
That's a great idea, though.
During Winterfest, awesome. I don't know if I'm going to love or hate that experience, but I've committed myself to it. And
that's awesome. That's great.
I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I've actually got my Texas Stingray shirt on this evening.
Oh, awesome. Glad you're wearing it.
I absolutely love Texas Stingray. It's one of my favorite GCIs. I had enough time to write it. I remember we rode 10 times the
That's
day
awesome.
that I was there, and hopefully next time I'll have enough time to make it 20. I just
There you go.
absolutely loved it. And I can't imagine Texas being that cold.
Oh yeah, I mean, a couple years ago we had a snowstorm here, and the park was white. With even our water park just had snow everywhere. So it's really random when it happens in Texas. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it really comes down.
Oh my goodness. Now, is that something that happens yearly or just every few years?
No, it's kind of like a once in a lifetime kind of experience. The one that happened a couple years ago, I think it was. I can't even think of the year that it happened, but it was within like the last 5 years. That was a big thing because, here in Texas, we just can't handle that type of snow. The city isn't prepared for that. So like San Antonio shuts down really quickly.
Oh, that's not something I'd ever thought of.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Up here in Kentucky, I'm used to the snow plows, the salt trucks, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the city, if I'm not mistaken, only has one de-icer in the entire city. It's just one.
So that's completely debilitating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when it gets really bad here, the state has to send in like its crew to de-ice the highways and everything for people to get around.
Okay. So do you count coaster credits?
I do not.
Okay.
And the only reason for that is because I know I've ridden rides, that I couldn't tell you when or where. So I've never really had an official count.
I just rode Green Lantern this year at Six Flags Great Adventure. And people just assume, because I'm from Kentucky, oh, you rode it when it was Chang at Kentucky Kingdom, didn't you? I had been to Kentucky Kingdom once years ago. I cannot for the life of me remember if I rode Chang. So I didn't count it until I rode Green Lantern and I was sure. And, I'm one of these people too. I'll count a ride once. I don't care if it's moved locations or whatever,
Sure.
It's still the same ride. I don't care if it has a different name. It's still the same layout. So that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Out of all of the coasters you've ridden, what is your favorite coaster?
Mako in Orlando. That's my favorite.
That's an awesome one.
Yeah, that one is my favorite. I haven't ridden it in a couple of years already, just because normally when I'm down in Orlando, especially at the park, it's usually for business, and so I usually don't have the time to go and get on. But I was able to ride it for the first time with some colleagues being down there, and we rode it like 3 times in a row, and it was just like it's just a phenomenal ride.
What specifically did you like about it? Do you remember?
Airtime, easy. It's just the airtime on that ride. Like you are just constantly floating in your seat, right?
Yes.
And then you look at this little shell that's on your waist, and it's just like this is holding me in from flying off onto International Drive, right?
I have ridden 8 B&M Hypers, and the thing that stands out to me about Mako is and the forcefulness of the airtime. You don't just float up, it pulls you up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Very forcefully. And it's so sustained. I feel like it's more sustained than the other hypers I've been on.
It has a great design on it. So, I mean,
Yes.
it was designed perfectly, and it's a great ride for the park. And in general, it's just a great coaster.
Have you been on Candymonium?
I have not. I've never been up to Hershey Park. Usually it's difficult for us to kind of get up to like the Northeast. So all those parks up there, I have not had the pleasure of visiting.
I did get on Candymonium when we did our East Coast trip in July. And that one it runs a very close second to Mako. Those two are in a league of their own, in my opinion, apart.
I'm hoping that if we can get up to Hershey Park, that I'll definitely get to ride Candymonium because I've heard nothing but great things about it.
It's incredible. The other one I'm looking forward to too, that I'm hoping to ride next year, is Behemoth.
I've heard that's a great coaster too, for sure.
I have heard great things about it, but we haven't been to Canada's Wonderland. But that's another one that has me very excited.
Sure.
So Mako is your favorite coaster. What is your least favorite coaster that you've ridden, if you have one?
Sure. So that would be Poltergeist at Fiesta, Texas, here in San Antonio as well. It's a premier coaster. For me, riding that coaster, I always felt uncomfortable in the car with the restraint system in it. I just didn't like it. And then, that coaster has been around, I dare say, since like 99. So it's not a new coaster, but when I used to ride it before they kind of refurbished it within the last year or so, when you took off on that thing, like my head would just be beat side to side. And so, I couldn't even tell you the last time that I rode it, but getting off of that ride, I just said, I will never get on this ride again because I just have a pounding headache.
That's understandable. And it's very interesting for me through talking with all the different people that I've talked to, how different people experience the same coaster,
right,
in many different ways. Poltergeist, for me, was one of the better rides of that design that I've been on. Flight of Fear at Kings Island is a lot rougher than Poltergeist. And the one at Kings Dominion was a little bit better. But when we got on Poltergeist, we're like, oh, it's actually okay. Now it was.
And when you got on that, Kim, was it green already?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got on after the refurbishment.
Okay, that would be why.
So yeah, exactly. So I haven't been on since they refurbed it. Just because, like I said, the last time I got on it, my head just took such a beating that I'm just like kind of turned off by it.
That would explain it. But even then, I will not put my hands up on those rides.
Yeah.
No, because I hold on and, sit a certain way to keep my head from doing that because
exactly.
I'm very sensitive to migraines. And if I get a migraine, I'm done.
Yeah, you're just done for the day.
I'm done for the day. And I will not put myself at risk of doing like that to myself. We were talking earlier about those rare credits. It's actually quite funny looking back at my worst coaster before this last little hoorah that I took over Labor Day weekend through the state of Illinois to get coaster credits. My least favorite coaster was Vortex at Carowinds. Well, we took a day when we were in Illinois. We had a lot of different things we did. I went to see Scorpions live.
Nice.
Thursday night. Oh, it was the performance of a lifetime. I will never forget it. I just hope that I get to see them again sometime.
It's funny you say that because I actually think the Scorpions are here in San Antonio this week.
There. If you could go see it, just go see it. Don't ask questions. Just go do it. They sound just as good, if not better, than they did.
That's awesome.
35 years ago. Klaus's voice has not lost anything. I mean, if anything, his voice has gotten better.
That's great.
It's incredible to see the shape these guys are in. Rudolph Schenker, he just turned 74 years old. He was literally running all over that stage, jumping up in the air. It's people like that I see that motivate me with my fitness.
I'm telling you, it's like they say, rock and roll keeps you young, right? So,
yeah, and I'm like, if you take care of yourself, when I see people like that can do that on a stage, I'm like, I can keep riding coasters. I can keep doing what I love if I take care of my body. Just got to keep doing it. But anyway, while we were there, we did that. We met up with some friends that live near Chicago at Six Flags Great America. But the day before that, we did a day of credit chasing, trying to get as many credits as we could that we were missing in the state of Illinois. The last stop of the day that I hadn't even planned on, because I didn't think we would have time to do it, but as luck had it, we had time to do it, was Grady's. And it's funny because my 350th coaster wound up being this Dragon Wagon. But they had, I didn't even know if I would hit 350. I didn't know what it would be on. It was just, one of those life happens sort of things. But they had a kiddie one. That is the absolute tiniest coaster. I didn't even think they would let us on it. I'm only 5'3". I had to sit sideways. And he let me get in it. Like, okay, if I can get myself in the seat, I'm gonna ride this thing. Oh my Lord. I was literally just screaming, ow,
The whole time.
the whole time. And it was my way of dealing with it. I was laughing like a hyena, just yelling, ow, make it stop. The whole ride. And of course, that thing must have gone around 20 times. It was one of the longest kiddie rides I've ever been on in my life. The next day, I had bruises on my shins. Oh, it was worth it. Oh my goodness. I don't know if somebody could pay me to put myself through that again. So now we're going to exit the coaster time capsule and talk about you, Ray Gonzales, the man.
Yep.
Tell me about your career at SeaWorld. I know you mentioned earlier some of the different roles you've had. You know, what are the different roles you've had in the park? You know, what have you found the most fulfilling? What do you think?
Sure. So I started off at SeaWorld as a tour guide. So I just did basic, tours, behind the scenes tours with the animals, things like that. So I was in the education department, worked my way up, became program manager. So I was basically over scheduling all the different programs that we had there for school groups or for, corporate groups that would come out and want to do a tour at the park. Then I got promoted to supervisor of tours. So to this day, all the programs that we have at SeaWorld San Antonio from the education side of them, the tours, school programs, things, either I had a hand in or helped create. So even some of the newer programs that we have still kind of have some of my input from the past. You know what I mean? So it's kind of had like the blueprint there. So while I was in education over tours, I got trained on a new POS system that the park was using, that the company had created. And over time, I kind of became the only unicorn that knew how to use that system. And that led to me moving over to the marketing department because of my knowledge of that system and just in computers in general and understanding how to build websites, things like that. I moved over to the digital team. So I helped build the websites for SeaWorld San Antonio for a couple of years. And then from there, I got promoted into park loyalty and was over all the annual pass program and all the annual pass holders that come to our park. And then from there, it just kind of grew for me. So, basically leading up to COVID, I would say, I was already doing all brand new rides and attractions at the park. I was already somewhat of a liaison to all the roller coaster groups that come to our park. And then, within the last couple of years, I kind of had a hand in our social channels. Most of the posts you see up there are from me. So did social for a bit. I did website again for a bit. I also did email for a while. So I basically just kind of had my hand in everything. And then I was also supporting our PR team, our PR director, for all things, having to do with the park. Again, makes sense being over brand new rides and attractions that I would also have a role with that. So doing interviews on TV, things like that, press conferences, all that good stuff, going to IAPA, announcing the new things that are coming to our park. And so, yeah, that's kind of everything that I've been over in my time here in the marketing department.
Oh, that's absolutely fascinating. You are a man of so many talents.
Thanks. I try.
You're welcome. And, the fact that you have time, that you still manage to make the time for your family, and do everything that you've done to have such an impact on that park. It's truly remarkable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you mentioned IAPA. That's another event I've not had the opportunity to attend yet.
Oh, you got to go. IAPA is extremely important for our industry. It's a great place to meet people, enthusiasts, vloggers, media, all that great stuff. And then, of course, all the major players in the industry when it comes to ride manufacturing, everyone is there. It's a great experience to be able to walk that floor and see all the cool new technologies that are coming into theme parks. There's, lots of models of rides that haven't even been announced yet. People make announcements there at IAAPA. It's just a really rewarding experience, especially when you're in the industry.
As a school teacher, I get 3 personal days a year. And that was something that I actually mentioned to Andrew previously, the one that our executive producer that lives in Orlando. I took 2 of my personal days this year already so I could go see Scorpions because, those guys are getting older.
Yep. IAAPA will still be there. The Scorpions, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen them live. And so, that was another one of those bucket list things. And they're not even in the United States, but every few years.
True.
And so I'm like, well, I need to go do this now because I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity, to do it again. But, once the opportunity rolls around, be it next year or the year after, I've got those personal days and I've not, used them. That's probably something I'm going to use those for. Hopefully sometime in the near future.
Awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I've got 1 personal day left this year, and I typically save that for the Friday of Coaster Stock.
There you go. Yeah.
Spring. Okay, so looking at your current role at SeaWorld San Antonio, what responsibilities do you currently have in the role of marketing leader and loyalty? What does that entail?
It's basically everything I kind of told you. I basically am the marketing catch-all. That's how I kind of put it. Because even as we've, brought more team members on to kind of relieve me of dealing with website and email and social, I still have a day-to-day involvement with that, especially being over the past program, because that, of course, that deals with all the different promotions that we're doing, all the different offers that we're doing. So that's just a constant thing for me. And of course, we do a really amazing job of continuing to bring value to our pass holders with new rides and attractions. And so again, that kind of hits all those points. Same thing with PR as well. So for me, it's kind of just this never-ending roller coaster per se of work and rewarding stuff to be able to do to bring to people that come to our park.
Well, and it just really hats off to you that you have as many responsibilities as you have, and you still find the time, make the time to come and interact with the public, such as myself. I mean, that's not something that I experience.
I do my best to also get out there for pass members. So even when we have events and stuff, I make myself available to hear the good stuff, the bad stuff, just to interact. It's rewarding when people see you and they come up, just to come talk to you for a couple minutes. It's just really rewarding to see people happy. And then, if there is a problem or issue, to be able to work through that and make sure that our pass members are happy with, their purchase, of course. Pass members are extremely important because they are the lifeblood of the park. Without pass members, you don't have a pass base, you don't have a park. So it is very important for me to have my face out there, to shake hands, like I always say, and for them to know me on a first name basis.
Well, and I told pretty much anybody that would listen after my experience, if you've not been to San Antonio, you need to go visit. I haven't even really sat down and counted all the parks I've been to this year. It's a lot.
Yeah, you've been going around a lot. Yeah.
But of all the places I've been, you really left an impact on me, made me feel the most welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And that, for me, that's when I go back to Texas, I don't care where the new coasters are. I don't, where the credits are. That's SeaWorld San Antonio is likely the first place I'm going to go.
Awesome.
So looking back on your tenure at SeaWorld, What do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment and why?
That's a good question. I don't know if there is one particular accomplishment that I would say that I'm overly proud of. I think I am more proud of seeing people come to the park and just have a great time, to see smiles on people's faces, or when, like I was telling you, when I'm talking with people and they just come and tell me, that they love what we're doing. You know what I mean? When I see comments on social and people are just telling us like, I just want to tell you, I had a great time at the park. To me, that is the most rewarding thing. Being a family man myself, when we go on vacation, and I take my daughters somewhere, I want them to have a great experience.
Yes.
And so, seeing other people have that fun experience when they come to our park, my home, it really does have an effect on me to say like, okay, we're doing things right.
Well, and it's really clear to me that you have a passion for what you're doing. It's
For sure.
not just a job.
Right.
And just like me, I'm in my 24th year of teaching. And, I'm at a point in my career where a lot of teachers, honestly, they burn out. They're
Sure.
sitting
Yeah.
back, they're
It's
waiting
tough
on
work.
retirement. They're miserable, and the kids in their classroom are miserable right along with them. And I'm still learning new things. I still feel like my work isn't done. I'll know when my work's done, and I'll know when it's time to leave, but it's not yet. But when you're doing what you have a passion for, you don't really feel like you're working.
Yeah. And it also, is helpful when you work with great people.
Yes.
The people that I work with are just absolutely amazing. They're like family to me. When people say like, you've been there for so long, like, how do you stay or why do you stay? One of the biggest reasons is the people that I work with. I like what I do and I love the people that I work with.
Yes.
And then of course, I have the support of my wife at home. I have the support of my kids, so it's just a perfect scenario for me.
Yeah. And it's definitely that intrinsic motivation.
Yep.
That keeps a person not just in their career, but fresh.
Exactly.
In their career for the long haul. And yes, the people, it's a complete necessity. And it starts, at the top with the leadership.
Agreed. Yep.
And trickles its way down. I have a principal and an assistant principal that are never in their office. They are out and about. They're in the classrooms. They're working with the kids. They're very visible. I've never for 1 minute felt like, I'm working for them. I feel like I'm working with them.
Right.
That's the atmosphere they've created. And, whether it's a bad day, something good comes out of every day when you've got a passion and a purpose.
Agreed.
And everybody around you shares in that.
Yep.
Absolutely. So looking back on your career at SeaWorld, thinking ahead, also, how has it impacted your life?
Well, I mean, it is my life, right? I've been there for so long. My wife and I got engaged there at the park. When we got married, it was, friends from work that were there. My kids grew up at the park. So, it has it's had a huge effect on my life. A lot of our close friends, our closest group of friends that we had are people that either currently work at the park or formerly worked at the park. And so, SeaWorld is basically just attached itself to us and has a role in basically everything that's happened for us, in our professional careers and our personal lives.
So that's very interesting. I did not realize I knew you had personal connection there. That's such a strong family connection as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really funny because, my kids grew up at the park. They've seen every animal, they've seen rides open, they've seen everything.
Mhm.
And when I ask them, like, hey, do you want to go to the park, or do you want to go this, it's the last place they want to be, right? Because they've seen it all, they've done it all, which is just a funny thing. And I think that we've spoiled them from going to Disney and Universal and all those parks that if it's not that, they don't care to go. But yeah, no, definitely the park has just had a huge role on our lives. Very thankful for it, because it has given us a lot.
Well, and life really does come full circle.
Agreed.
When you're where you're meant to be, everything just kind of works out.
Yep. Totally.
And it makes me very excited for you to see what's going to come next.
Oh,
because
thanks.
you definitely do not sound like you're finished.
Yeah.
In many ways, just getting started. I feel that way too, as I'm constantly challenging myself and teaching myself new things. What I want to do in my classroom. I'm like, this is either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. But the only way I'm going to know is to try.
Exactly. And I also think that I benefit too from meeting so many people in the industry, having friends that are, colleagues in other parks and things. And, I learn something from everyone. And so I'm constantly trying to better myself as a marketing professional and as a theme park professional as well. I don't, think that I know it all. I continually learn, but I am thankful to know so many people in the industry.
It's interesting that you said that, because I'm the same way. You cannot improve. You cannot get better. I don't even think you can sustain over, a lifetime in a career if you think you have all the answers.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
And you're not willing to self-reflect. Look at what you're doing well, but then also look at what you could improve on. Find people that are the best of the best. Look at what they're doing. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. Be humble. Ask questions. Learn from them. And, just keep improving, because I never dreamt 24 years into teaching. Some days it's like I'm starting all over again, but it excites me at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. You got to have a passion for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've talked about kind of the impact that it's had on your life. What impact do you strive to have on others through the work that you do at SeaWorld?
I was kind of talking earlier about just making sure that families, when they come to the park, that they have a great experience and they're making memories for their families, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, too, I also do my best to make sure that those up and coming professionals in the theme park industry have what they need to support and continue to carry our industry, right? Yes. Because that's very important. Sometimes I feel that the industry is changing, sometimes not all for the good, but, we can't go quietly into the night. We have to make sure that we continue to bring amazing experiences for people that come to our parks. And the only way to do that is by helping those younger professionals as they come into the park to learn, what it is that we do and why we do it.
Yes.
And I think that's a very, very important thing when it comes to our industry.
Yes. And you have to leave a legacy. There have to be people coming, up and coming behind you that understand the purpose.
Exactly.
Of what's happening in order for it to continue.
Right.
And I get it totally what you're saying with the changes in the industry. They're happening so rapidly. I don't even have enough time, as much of an enthusiast as I am, to keep up, with all of the changes that are happening around the country.
Yep.
Some for the better, Some, I'm not so sure, but and definitely just because the thing I've noticed, even with amusement parks and the competitive nature, just because you're at the top of the game in the year 2022, by 2025, your park could be a thing of yesterday.
No, 100% true. Yeah, for sure.
Just with all of the advancements and things that are taking place, and with funding, staffing, the whole 9 yards, it's definitely not an industry that I could see that's easy to stay, competitive with
Yep.
everything that's happening.
Agreed. Yep.
All right. Now, my next topic that I want to discuss with you is advice.
Sure.
I mean, you seem very content, very, like dream come true life with work and with your family. What advice can you give to those that are listening, whether it be, about facing fear, work, or life in general?
I think that the big thing is that you have to be willing to adjust. And that is, not just professionally, but also just in day-to-day life, right? You have to be able to adjust things. Things aren't going to always be perfect. Things are going to change. And it really tells the type of person that you are if you are able to adjust to the things around you. I always say, we all know the saying, things, what's the saying? It won't kill you, just makes you stronger, right?
Yes.
It's true. You will have challenges throughout life, especially if it's professional things.
Yes.
Things happen, things change, right? And you just have to be able to adjust to that, make a plan, and move forward. But that's the key, right? Is that you just keep moving forward.
Yes. And I mean, that's kind of a philosophy that I live by. You can make excuses, or you can find a way to get results.
Exactly. Get the job done.
There's no in between. You can look at the life as half full or half empty. I look back, very beginning of the school year this year, they stuck this new technology, brand new smart panel in my classroom. Took the old one out, but I knew how to use. No directions, no training or anything. Just here it is. And I'm like, great. In a couple more days, I'm going to have 30 kids in this classroom, and I have no idea how to use this thing. So what do? Turn it on, start messing around with it. Once I hit roadblocks, call other teachers that I know have a better technology brain than I do.
Yeah.
And figure out how to make this work. Because
got to get the job done one way or another.
Excuses to fail are reasons to succeed. That's what. Okay, and I can also reflect on that with my weight loss. We were discussing this actually just yesterday in school. We had a speaker, and he had written a book called Dribble Dribble. And dribble dribble was when you don't try, try, insinuate. If you say you're going to try to do something, it instead insinuates that failure is a possibility. When you say you're going to do it, failure is not an option. And that's a story I shared. I tried for many years. I got depressed after my mom passed away, and I just ate all the time. Sat around and ate, emotional eating. I got up to 245 pounds, and I'm only 5'3", so it was very overweight for me. I had ruptured tendons in my feet. I had bad arthritis in my knees. I could barely walk. It was just horrible. Yeah. And for years I tried to lose weight, and wasn't successful. And it was actually becoming an enthusiast that motivated me, because my daughter wanted me to take her to Singapore. I knew before we went, I know I won't fit on Millennium First or Top Thrill Dragster. So that was the kick in the behind I needed. And I just decided, you know what? I'm done trying. I'm going to do this. And it took almost 3 years because I'll be 47 years old in November. Well, it doesn't come off as fast as it used to. It took almost 3 years.
But now you've been successful. You're thriving with it, and you're just killing it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Lost as much as I weigh. But again, it was that decision to do, stop trying to do.
Exactly.
Okay. And our last question is, where can we find you on social media if people would like to connect with you and learn more about you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Ray Gonzales, and also on Facebook. I don't really, I do get on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, but I don't really have my own personal accounts. It's just, from working in those channels there, but definitely LinkedIn and Facebook, you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I've really enjoyed hearing your story. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for taking time to hang out with me this evening. I appreciate it and hope to see you in Texas soon.
All right.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see more of us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links are in the description below. Thanks for joining us here today.